Hey y'all, it's Lissa. Long time no see. I'm going to show you today how to turn your box card die into a shadow box card, and I'm going to be using Birds of a Feather from Craftin Desert Divas. You can see that I've cut two panels out of watercolor paper, and now to make the shadow box part I've just cut off the flaps at the score lines made by the box card die. I'm now using the matte piece that's included in the box card die to make a frame out of one of the panels. Whenever I do this, it means that you'll be able to see through that part, thus making it into the box card, the shadow box card, excuse me. It's a little off center here, but that won't matter because it's going to be rather busy. Now I've cut 4 pieces of acetate with this little insert die. I'm only going to use one, but I figured better have enough, so just in case I wanted to use more. Okay, now I'm going to put away the dies and I'm going to pull out my craft mat. And along with my craft mat, I'm going to pull out my Distress Oxide inks. They are Twisted Citron, Peeled Paint, Lucky Clover, and Vintage Photo, although I'm not using Vintage Photo. I'm taking Twisted Citron and going over the whole piece on both sides of both pieces. Then I'm going to spritz it with some water to give it more of a distressed look. I like this color and I want to layer. I'm going to do Lucky Clover next. But what I don't like is that I sprayed over the Lucky Clover and the Twisted Citron and then blotted it up with a paper towel. And I really don't like how that came out. This part I think is perfect right here, and then I had to go mess it up. But that's the cool thing about Distress Oxide inks, is that if you take off too much, you can always add some more on. So here you can see, since I did it to one piece, I figured I might as well go ahead and do it to both pieces on both sides. This way I can start at the same point on both pieces. So now I'm adding some more Twisted Citron to get it back to that color I like, and I'm adding in some Lucky Clover. This time I sprayed it, and instead of wiping it off with a paper towel or blotting it up with a paper towel, I just heat set it, and I like that much better. It gives it more of a variated look in the background. So now I get to do this to all 4 sides of this piece, which seems kind of overkill, but in the end I really like how it came out. Now, as you can see, I should have dried that piece, or I should have fully dried that piece, and I didn't. So I'm taking the Reinkers for Vintage Photo and Walnut ink, and I'm going to make trees. I'm watering down part of it, and as soon as I hit that part it starts spreading out. That's because I didn't dry it. But what I'm doing with the different consistencies of the reinkers is I'm making different depths of vision. So if you were to just look at a photo of a rainforest, you would see all the trees in the background, but you wouldn't be able to see all of them clearly. So there's different levels of vision in the image. Again, probably not necessary, but this is how I wanted to do it. Now, in between, I'm drying each part, and this can take quite a while because some of these are full strength distress reinkers, which means it's full pigment, so therefore it's going to take it a bit to dry into the paper. And here in a second you're going to see where I mess up. I stick the side of the piece into my walnut ink, but I'm going to leave it. I know, shocker, but I'm going to leave it because it went onto the inside, and the only person who's going to see that is the person who's actually really looking for it. So I'm not really worried about it. In between each layer of different consistencies of vintage photo and walnut stain. Walnut stain I never did water down. It's just vintage photo that I watered down. I am heat setting this. So that way it doesn't, it's not going to bleed together. It's going to be each its own layer, which is what I want. And there you can see I stuck the wonderful piece in there. I just decided to leave that in there. You know, everybody makes mistakes. So it's all part of crafting. It's just room for embellishment. So I'm just continuing on my way making more and more trees. In a bit, I'm going to show you how I kind of cover up the mistake I made a little bit. You can still see it a lot, but I kind of cover it up. I'm continuing making my layers on both pieces. I just keep going back and forth and back and forth, and then setting part to dry on its own, and then also heat setting part of it. I just really wanted all of these layers, and I wanted a lot of depth in these panels. Now I'm grabbing my peeled paint, Distress Oxide ink. I didn't fully get all of those dry, so it is smearing them a little bit, but this way the peeled paint adds kind of a darker texture, so it looks more like it's in shadow. It's under the top of the rainforest, and it's going to give it a little bit more realistic look, and it kind of blurs those out. Now I've grabbed my splatter box and I've grabbed my peeled paint Distress Reinker. I'm not watering this down at all, but I've grabbed a paintbrush and I'm now splattering the green, the peeled paint all over my pieces. Both sides I'm going to heat set, but I'm going to do this with the full strength peeled paint because I kind of want it to give the look of leaves, but they're going to be small in the background, kind of blurry, so that way they don't take precedence over it. The birds that I'm going to use are going to be the main focal of the shadow box. To use the other greens, I'm wiping the ink pad onto a acrylic block, spraying it with water, and then flicking it onto my pieces. I don't have these reinkers yet. I say yet, they will be in my house soon rather than later. But this is another way to be able to use them so you can get your ink splatters. But this way there's also a variance in green. There's not just one color of green, because if you look at photos of the rainforest, there's not just one color of green. I also decided to do this with black soot because if you were to look at a photo of a rainforest, it's dark. You're under the cover of trees, so there is going to be some black spots. Basically, they'd just be shadows. Probably not in little spots just as leaves, but I thought this added a lot of detail to it, and I really liked how it came out. Now I'm going to finish drying this. I'm going to heat set it with my heat gun. Then I ran it through my Gemini in order to flatten out the pieces. It took a couple times, but it worked. I didn't want them to be all curled up. It would have taken away from the niceness of the box. Now I'm using score tape to put mine together because this is watercolor paper, and also because score tape is like the strongest tape that I know of. I'm using an ergonomic bone folder. I love this bone folder for scoring my cards and stuff. It just makes it so much easier on me. But now I'm going to glue the two panels together, and I did make a mistake while I did this, and I'll show you what I did later because I haven't figured it out yet. Later I will figure it out and then I'll fix it. But this is where I started using my acetate. I wanted my birds to be sitting on this branch, and this branch is really thin and it doesn't have a flap to be able to put it up next to the attach it to the inside of the box card die. So I put it on some acetate in order to prep my birds so that way they could actually sit on the branch. I cut a slit between their toes and their tail. So now that will hang over, but in order to get them to actually sit on the branch on the piece of acetate, I have to cut the acetate into the shape of the tree. So a little fussing, it works. I think it turned out great. I love how it turned out. You can kind of see the acetate in there, but in the end, I don't think that's what people are going to be looking at. I fitted it into the shadow box so that way I could make sure that they were in the right position on the tree branch. And now I'm just playing around and making sure that they're glued on. I'm using multi-matte medium in my ultra fine bottle. Here you can see my fingers are dirty and I accidentally got a green fingerprint on my white bird. That would be my luck. I'm using a sand eraser to erase that off. Works great. Can't even tell it was there. Didn't bother my Copic coloring or anything. Now I'm laying the birds out on the acetate piece inside of the box card. I laid it down wrong. So I pulled it off, took off the adhesive. Now I'm going to lay it down right. I'm bound and determined to do this right. So I'm doing the way that they showed me in the lawn fun videos, where you put the pieces inside before you actually close the box. Now I've cut another piece of acetate here to go up top. I did not want to use it, so eventually I pulled it out, and you can see that I felt like the birds were enough. I wanted them to be the main part of the frame. So yeah, there's a little white spot. I'm not worried about it because it's on the inside of the box and no one's going to see. So now I'm decorating the outside of my box. I pre-colored and pre-cut all of my images. These are from the Craftin Desert Divas Birds of a Feather stamp set. I love this stamp set, and I love the flower accessories that she has inside of it to go there, and the leaves are perfect for the rainforest. So I just totally wanted to make this scene that would be around these birds, and they could look like they were right at home. They're two little flirting birds. So I have to make birds flirt. As you can see, one of my little flowers popped off. What I'm going to do is I use my tweezers as a clamp to hold on the flower until it dries, and then it's going to stay there. Especially here in this part, I'm going over the leaves on the tree branch because I felt they should be the same kind of leaves as on the rest of the box card. And plus I wanted that pop of pink because the boy bird is covering up the flower in the, I can't really say the girl bird's hair, but the flower on the girl bird's head. Now I just realized that I messed up, so I'm going to use some undo. I love this stuff because, as you can see, it didn't mess with my Distress Oxide inks. I've done this on Copic coloring before and it didn't mess with it, but it still removes the adhesive. This stuff's a lifesaver. It's like serious magic. Now I'm going to seal up my box card and my project is all finished. To learn more about my project, please be sure to visit my blog. The link to the post is in the video description box here on YouTube. Also be sure to like and subscribe for my videos. I wanted to say thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.